Y'all like my new hat? Feels fitting for this Texas football team. Half gas, half brakes, because that's what this team has been the last 2 weeks. What's up, guys? BK Brad Kellner. Today is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. We're talking Texas football today, recapping another Longhorn collapse, this time to the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 32-24. The final. OSU comes into Austin and leaves with a victory for the fifth time in their last 6 tries. That's right, guys. Mike Gundy has won 5 of his last 6 times. He has taken his Oklahoma State football team into Austin. And once again, Texas looked solid in the first half. They had a 4-point lead at halftime. They were up 17-3 at one point in the first half with a chance to make it even bigger. And you had the Casey Thompson pick 6. It started to unravel from there. And then in the second half, once again, the Longhorns just completely melt down. Oklahoma State scores the final 19 points, and they get the 8-point victory in Austin. The third loss of the year for Texas, the second loss in conference play. And look, even talking about conference championships feels ridiculous right now. But if you do want to talk about getting to Arlington and potentially finding your way to the Big 12 championship game, the Longhorns now have 0 margin for error. I don't think they're completely eliminated with this second loss, but they sure as hell can't afford a third. And once again, I don't know if anybody is confident in this team running the table the rest of the way to even have a chance to get to Jerry World in December for that Big 12 title game. So just another disaster, another epic collapse, and we're talking about it here on this channel. Apologies, guys. I know it's Tuesday. The game happened 3 days ago. Wanted to do a video Sunday night. Something came up. Was busy yesterday too. So that's all me. I apologize for taking this long to get some content out to you guys. I will do a live chat later this week. I'll do a couple of more recorded videos as well. But sorry for making y'all wait until Tuesday to get my thoughts. And look, I want to get y'all's thoughts too. So comment below your takeaways. Your confidence level in this team the rest of the way. Also, your confidence level in Steve Sarkisian and this new coaching staff, not just for 2021, but beyond. I want to hear from you guys. You guys make this channel. I appreciate the continued love and support. And now I ask something from you. If you would please like this video, that would be great. And subscribe to this channel too, so you're always informed whenever I release new content. I usually don't make y'all wait till Tuesday before I drop a video, so my bad on that. But subscribe if you can. Tap that little notification bell so you're always informed whenever I release new content on this channel. Appreciate y'all's continued love and support. But yeah, half gas, half brakes, guys. A lot to get into from the disastrous performance on Saturday. God, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I guess we'll start with the second half meltdown, and we'll take a look back at Oklahoma and also at Oklahoma State. Of course, the Longhorns scored 38 points in the first half against OU. They had a huge lead going into the locker room in Dallas, and then in the second half, they scored just 10 points. They go 4 out of 5 drives without a point. That fifth drive was actually a field goal, so 3 points in 5 drives in the second half against Oklahoma, which, of course, allowed the Sooners to come back into that game. And then this past weekend against Oklahoma State, just 7 second-half points for the Longhorns. How about this? The last 6 drives of the game for Texas, 12 yards. That's right, not like an average of 12 yards, 12 total yards on the final 6 drives of the game for the Longhorns. Of course, they scored 0 points. In the fourth quarter on Saturday, Oklahoma State, 170 yards of offense. Texas, 1 total yard of offense in the fourth quarter in the game against the Pokes. Needless to say, you're not going to win a lot of football games when you have 1 yard over an entire quarter of play. 8 plays, 1 yard for the Longhorn offense on Saturday. It was disastrous. The final 17 plays, one more atrocious stat before we kind of move on and get to some of the big picture stuff. The final 17 plays for the Texas offense, they had 14 yards, and 5 of those came on penalty. So just any stat you look at, any metric you look at, hell, you don't need numbers. Just the eye test would tell you that Texas was horrendously bad offensively down the stretch against Oklahoma State. And we saw it once again against OU. Or we saw it again against OU the week before. And obviously we saw it again against Oklahoma State. Bijan Robinson, another great first half for him. But as the game progressed, he couldn't make a lot happen, and most of that has to do with the offensive line. You guys know I talk about it all the time. I feel like in every video that I do on this channel, I mention this at least once, that football games are won and lost in the trenches. And Texas lost the line of scrimmage on both sides again this weekend. That was the big difference against Oklahoma. That was the big difference against Oklahoma State. As the game wore on, Texas started to lose that battle in the trenches. The offensive line got pushed around. No holes for Bijan Robinson in this Texas run game. Not enough time for Casey Thompson and drop back and do a whole lot in the passing game. That was a problem. And then flip the script. On defense, the Texas defensive line just got worked as the game progressed. Jaylen Warren, the Oklahoma State running back, 154 yards in the second half. He only had 39 yards in the first half, right? Texas did a pretty good job defensively. Hell, they held Oklahoma State to 6 offensive points in the first half. They had 13 at halftime, 7 of which came on that 85-yard pick six, which was a huge turning point in this football game. No doubt about that. But yeah, the Texas defense, they gave up some yards. They bent. They didn't break in the first half. Once again, 6 points allowed. They kept Jaylen Warren in check. They made life pretty tough for Spencer Sanders, who also does a pretty good job of making life tough on himself. That guy was not good on Saturday. That guy is just not very good. I'll give him some credit. He made enough plays in the second half to help kind of steer Oklahoma State to a victory. But, Texas defensively did a lot of things right in the first half. And once again, in the second half, they just kind of fell apart. It wasn't as dramatic or as egregious as what took place at the Cotton Bowl, but Jaylen Warren started to get whatever he wanted. Spencer Sanders made some plays. The receivers were able to make some stuff happen downfield. And it was just a chain reaction of negative events for Texas. And it's 2 weeks in a row where we've seen just that. So the defensive line falling apart in the second half once again. That was supposed to be a strength of this football team going into the season. We're now 7 games in, and it feels like a weakness, guys. It's definitely not a strength. It sort of feels like a weakness for this Texas football team. You're just not getting enough production up front. You had some talent, you had some experience, you had some depth. You felt really good about that position group going in, and the production is just not matching the on-paper stuff. And it's just another year, guys. It's 12 years in a row now. We're not talking about a decade of bad, non-refundable Texas football, as I like to call it. We're on to 12 years of this crap, and it's just underperforming and guys not living up to their potential. And I don't know what the talent level is on this roster right now. I mean, I know you look at recruiting numbers, and they'll tell you that Texas has one of the most talented rosters in all of the country, but guys just haven't been developed here over the last 12 years. That probably goes without saying. That's been the biggest problem in Austin for the last dozen years, is that D word, right? Development hasn't been there. And we're not quite seeing it yet with this new coaching staff. A lot of the problems, a lot of the lack of development for these current players has to do with the last coaching staff. I'm not closing the book on Steve Sarkisian or anything like that. Now, have the last 2 weeks been disappointing? Yes, absolutely. Do they have their work cut out for them? Yes, absolutely. Do you feel like those are 2 games that Texas could have and probably should have won? Yeah, no doubt about that. But a lot of the problems that are going on within the program don't have a lot to do with Steve Sarkisian. And this Texas team had less returning production than any other team in conference play. Once again, maybe we all have been overrating the talent a little bit, just focusing too much on recruiting numbers instead of what the talent has actually looked like in college. Steve Sarkisian is going to have to find a way to turn things around. So I'm not closing the book on Sark long term, but he clearly has his work cut out for him, and I'm not sure it's going to happen this year, guys. I'm not sure we're going to see that night and day development change that we've all been looking for a long time in 2021. I feel like Texas has at least 1, if not 2, more losses in them this season. Hell, they've got a bye week, obviously, this week, but then after that, a trip to Waco to take on a Baylor team that's ranked in the top 20. They're 6-1. They've been playing some good football with Dave Aranda, and then a trip to Iowa State. Iowa State hasn't had the year that most people expected them to have, but they did start the year in the top 10. Matt Campbell's a hell of a coach who's had Texas's number since he's been in Ames. Like, those are the next 2 games for the Longhorns. They could lose both of those football games easily. And if they have second halves like the second halves they've had the last couple of weeks, then they probably will lose both of those football games. So I don't know if it's going to happen. My preseason prediction for this team was 8-4. I feel like we're headed that way. Hell, that might be optimistic at this point, considering this team is 4-3 headed into the midseason bye. Sark talked about it post-game, and he also talked about it a lot at his press conference on Monday. Psyche is the issue. I'll read y'all a couple of exact quotes from Steve Sarkisian if you missed his presser. He said, quote, "I think right now we're in a space where we get a lead, something doesn't go our way, and we harbor a little bit of negative thoughts, and ultimately those negative thoughts creep into cautious play, uncertainty, and untimely errors, end quote. Here's one more quote. To me, coming out of this game, it was about psyche. Now, seeing it 2 weeks, we can't play cautious. We can't play trying to hold on, and I think that we do that. I think that we are just hoping the other team might make a mistake, and Oklahoma State didn't make the mistakes, end quote. The psyche's off with this team, guys. You could see that on Saturday. Like when things started to unravel, they snowballed and things went downhill fast for Texas. And you could tell there was sort of a hangover effect from the second half at the Cotton Bowl that translated into the second half against Oklahoma State, right? One bad thing happens and things fall apart for this football team. Casey Thompson was awesome for the majority of the first half. He throws that pick six at the end of the half, and it just felt like he never got his bearings back under him. The defense, a couple of bad plays, a couple of big runs from Jalen Warren, and they start to lose confidence, and things fall apart for them as well. There was a hangover effect, and you could tell that Texas looked nervous, and they were just like praying not to lose. They weren't playing to win. They were praying and playing not to lose, like almost hoping that the clock would tick a little bit faster on that massive jumbotron in the south end zone at DKR. And, well, obviously that did not happen. That's got to change. And Steve Sarkisian said that's coaching. We've got to find a way to coach that out of them because it's a lot of mental for this football team right now. And a lot of it falls on coaching too. A lot of it falls on schematics. Like Sark's initial scripts, the first 15 plays for this offense the last couple of weeks have been spectacular, right? They went up 14-0 in 3 minutes against Oklahoma. The offense did so many good things in the first half against Oklahoma State. And then in the second half, you're not seeing anything. You're not seeing that creativity. You're not seeing scheming guys open. Feels like you're seeing less creative ways to get Bijan Robinson the football, right? That wheel route touchdown. Would love to see more stuff like that, like we saw in the first half. Want to see more Keelan Robinson, right? Finding ways to get the ball into your playmakers' hands and let them go to work. Feels like we've seen that in first halves the last couple of weeks, and it just feels way more vanilla from Steve Sarkisian and this offensive coaching staff in the second half, almost like they're puckering up a little bit, and they're scared to go off script, go outside of the box, and do something a little different. It starts at the top, guys, but it's something going on with everybody in that locker room right now where there's something up here that is causing them to have these collapses in the second half. Casey Thompson was not good. No way around it. Once again, solid first half, but you look at his overall stat line, and it is not pretty. 15 of 27 for 179 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. Of course, the pick six at the end of the first half, and then the INT on the final offensive possession of the game when Texas was trying to score a touchdown and then a 2-point conversion to tie it at the end of regulation. Casey Thompson just wasn't good. I mean, it was like the TCU performance. And we've seen some great from Casey Thompson this year, right? He was phenomenal against Oklahoma. 5 touchdowns, nearly 400 yards, no turnovers against the Sooners. Obviously helped put up 70 against Texas Tech in the conference opener. But, you know, in 2 of the 4 conference games, he's been really, really bad. He was not good against TCU. Bijan just was amazing in the second half. And, you know, what I just said about Sark being pretty vanilla and not creative in the second half, even though that was a win in Fort Worth, the game plan in the second half was just hand the ball off to Bijan and let him go to work. Not super creative, not super innovative. Bijan was just Bijan, and Texas was able to get some push up front against what's been a very bad, especially by their standards, TCU defense. Casey Thompson was not good in that football game. He was not good in this football game either. Sark said he's still going to start after the bye week, and he's earned that, right? I mean, short a leash for Hudson Card earlier in the year, you could argue that. But because we've seen some good for Casey Thompson, I agree with the decision from Steve Sarkisian, but he's got to play better. Simple as that. Defenses are going to hone in on stopping Bijan. We've seen that the last couple of weeks, and Casey Thompson just wasn't able to make enough plays in the passing game for Texas. Not all on him. Not having Jordan Whittington's obviously a huge loss on the outside. You don't have a ton of talent with these wide receivers, and the offensive line just isn't doing its job at all. But you need more from Casey Thompson. If he has another game like this, I wouldn't be surprised if Sark considers going back to Hudson Card, later in the season, and that's not really what you want. So obviously something to monitor moving forward. What else? Steve Sarkisian on Monday talked about position battles. There's going to be a position battle at left tackle over the next couple of weeks. Christian Jones hasn't been great. He started every game at left tackle for Texas, but a lot to be desired there. Andre Carrick is rotating in and out with the ones with Christian Jones. Andre Carrick did not play for the most part. He got in some against Oklahoma State. He did not start against Oklahoma State after starting at right tackle against OU. So Sark looking to make some changes with the offensive line that just continues to underwhelm. That's been an issue around these parts for a long, long time, and that's unfortunately hasn't changed here in 2021. And I expected it going into the season. It's a weakness for this football team. I've got faith in Kyle Flood being able to turn things around eventually. I don't have faith in Kyle Flood being able to turn things around this season. DeMarvion Overshone got hurt. That was a big loss as well. Concussion. We'll see if he's good to go against Baylor. I thought Jalen Ford and David Benda did some pretty good things. I thought they played okay. I thought Jalen Ford looked better than Luke Brockermeyer at times on Saturday, which makes you question whether or not your two starters should have been DeMarvion Overshone and Jalen Ford at linebacker over the first 6 weeks of the season. We'll monitor that situation, though, going forward, of course. So trying to think what else I need to talk about, guys. We'll do a live chat. I'll take y'all's questions. I feel like I'm talking in circles. Probably should have planned this one out a little bit better. But just an incredibly disappointing loss. Like, despite the result against Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl the previous week, I felt okay. Like, I felt good about this team getting another shot at Oklahoma and making a run at a Big 12 championship. Felt pretty good about Steve Sarkisian despite the collapse. I was like, all right, he put up 48 points against a pretty good defense. They did a lot of things right in that game against OU. Of course, the result is really all that matters in the end. But still, like, I left the Cotton Bowl thinking, all right, like, we've got something with this coaching staff. I'm not closing the book on them once again, but very deflating performance on Saturday against Oklahoma State, with Texas as a favorite in that football game, with all of the recruits that were in town too. I haven't even talked about that yet, but like Arch Manning, does Arch Manning want to be a part of this? It's a class of 23 kids, so Texas has a year and a half to turn things around. But like with that offensive performance on Saturday, does Arch Manning want to be a part of this thing? Same stuff, different year for Texas, unfortunately, guys. We'll see if it changes this year. If not, we'll see when it does change. But yeah, that was extra salt in the wound, a little bit of a knife twist, knowing that all of those recruits were there, Arch Manning, Evan Stewart, and a bunch of cats for the classes of 22 and 23, and to have that performance not great. And you could say the recruits are sitting there thinking, hey, these guys aren't that good. I could come in and play right away for this football team. And maybe some of them did feel that way, but a lot of these guys, most of these guys, I assume, want to win and compete for conference and national championships. Texas is not doing that right now, and these guys want to get developed and play on Sundays. Texas is not really developing guys right now. Once again, that's not a Sark problem. That's a program problem. That's been going on long before Steve Sarkisian got here, but he's got to find ways to turn things around for Texas to get back to where Texas needs to be. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Once again, comment below. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel if you'd be so kind. 32-24, Oklahoma State gets the win over Texas in Austin. Fifth time in the last 6 tries that OSU comes into Austin and leaves with a victory. Just another second half meltdown for the Longhorns on both sides of the ball. The defense gets worn down, and the offense completely falls apart. Thank you all for watching. Last Stand Hats, today's video sponsor. They did not actually make this half gas, half brakes hat. Not that you guys could figure that out on your own. Just a cut out piece of paper and Sharpie job on my part. But if you want the all gas, no brakes hat or any badass hat, BK10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase of any Last Stand hat. All right, guys, shameless plug for myself, ESPN 97.5 in Houston, weekdays from 3 to 7. Listen to The Wheelhouse. That's the show that I'm on down in H-Town, ESPN975.com if you are outside the listening area. Appreciate the love. I'll be back. We'll do a live chat later this week, but thank y'all so much for watching. Until next time, y'all stay safe, y'all stay healthy, and hook 'em.